Democrats would not have shut the government down this time if their political careers did not depend on it. And that is not some Republican talking point. That is the objective truth. If it wasn't already abundantly clear, the number 2 Democrat in the House yesterday openly admitted to that fact. Catherine Clark is the House Democrat whip. She works right under Hakeem Jeffries as the number 1 Democrat, and she was in an interview and she said to one of your colleagues sitting here on the front row, quote, "Of course there will be families that are going to suffer, but this is one of the few leverage times we have," unquote. It's shocking to hear them say that out loud. By her own admission, she knows that the American people are suffering. Democrats know that millions of federal workers are desperate for their paychecks. They know that thousands of flights have been delayed. They know that SNAP benefits and nutrition assistance for women, infants, and children are in jeopardy for millions of American families. And yet, they don't seem to care. But you know what? Take heart, America. Take heart. Because all your suffering is for a good cause. It's for the Democrats' political leverage. That's what the number 2 Democrat said here yesterday. It is utterly shameful. The obvious truth is that only a Democrat could get away with saying such abhorrent things without the media batting its eye. I guarantee you, if the tables were turned, if the Republicans were the ones holding the country hostage and openly admitting to it, it would be absolutely explosive. It would be wall-to-wall coverage, and everybody in this room knows that. Every single mainstream media outlet, every newspaper in America, every single day would have that on the top fold as the big headline. But of course, that's not what's happening right now. Coverage of all this has been sporadic and almost every time spun to try to somehow favor the Democrats who have put us in this mess. Democrats own this. They have said so themselves, and you just have to listen to their own words. Don't listen to us. Chuck Schumer himself said infamously, "Every day of the shutdown gets better for us," meaning the Democrats. And then you had the Democrat whip here say yesterday, openly admitted, they're holding the country hostage for their political leverage. They're perfectly fine with that. They're perfectly okay with real pain being felt by real Americans as long as it helps their political agenda as they see it, as long as they can force $1.5 trillion new dollars in spending on America and get illegal aliens back on health care funded by U.S. citizens. That's their kind of proposal. And largely, so many in the media are turning a blind eye to that. Well, as I said earlier, we've stood up here every day and talked to you about some of the terribly harmful effects that the Democrat shutdown is causing on Americans. We talked about troops at risk of missing their next paycheck. The nutrition assistance for women, infants, and children is under threat. Now, SNAP benefits will not be sent to those who truly need it. But there's another very important group of federal employees that we want to highlight today because they also aren't getting paid, and the consequences are being felt around the country. Air traffic controllers, some people call the policemen of our skies. They have been showing up at work without pay. And news reports have suggested that these men and women are seeking outside employment just to keep their families afloat. Some of them are working these long shifts, and then they're hopping in a car and driving for Uber, or they're delivering for DoorDash all night. And you just have to think about what a heavy thing that is. These men and women have one of the most stressful jobs in America. They cannot be 99.5% accurate or 99.9% accurate. They have to be 100% accurate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And now they're being forced to work longer hours, take on multiple jobs, and maintain the same level of excellence, again, all while Democrats hold their paychecks hostage. This is what one air traffic controller said in their own words in an article, quote, "The financial anxiety doesn't just hurt morale, it directly affects safety. When someone responsible for thousands of lives a day is worrying about whether they can pay rent or feed their kids, focus suffers. Controllers were already underwater with pay and staffing before the shutdown, and now we're drowning," unquote. As a reminder, and this is pretty ominous, but you remember the article a few days ago where the Democrats were quoted saying they won't reopen the government unless, quote, "planes are falling out of the sky," unquote. We pray to God it doesn't come to that, obviously. But the longer this shutdown goes on, and as fewer air traffic controllers show up to work, the safety of the American people is thrown further into jeopardy. Now, I'm heartened that we have a leader like Secretary Duffy. He has an extraordinary team. We have extraordinary air traffic controllers in this country, and they are maintaining the safety against incredible odds. But right now there are 13,000 air traffic controllers and more than 50,000 TSA officers who are showing up to work without pay. Our Secretary Duffy's doing a great job to triage this, but he noted that normally just 5% of flight delays are the result of staffing shortages. Right now that number, at least 2 days ago, was 53%. According to online flight tracking databases, there were 19,000 delayed flights from Saturday to Monday, and an additional 1,600 canceled flights during that same period. That number is only going to increase as the Democrat shutdown continues, especially as air traffic controllers are set to miss another paycheck on October 28. We are rounding into a holiday season, as we all know, and we're in the middle of the height of the football season. This is peak travel time for the U.S. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are going to travel to football games this weekend, for example, and if the current trajectory continues, many Americans could miss watching their favorite teams and reconnecting with friends and family. So football fans, hey, if you're stuck in the airport this weekend while your favorite team is about to kick off, you can blame the Democrats for that, all right? They own this shutdown and they own the consequences too. So now here to share this firsthand perspective of some of the ways this shutdown is stretching thin American air travel and all of our air infrastructure is our extraordinary Secretary, Sean Duffy. And then after he speaks, you will hear from the Chairman of Transportation and Infrastructure, our committee here in the House, our good friend Sam Graves. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, I want to thank the Republican leadership team and Republicans in the House for your votes to keep the government open, keep the government funded. Usually this is a House problem. It's in the Senate right now. The Senate can't find the votes to keep the government open, and it's Democrat votes. And I thought you made a really good point, Mr. Speaker, that I do think in the Democrat senators' hearts, they want to vote to open the government up. They don't want to hurt the American people. But we've seen they have a radical base, a base that's out of control. And if they vote to open up the government, what's going to happen is they are going to be primaried. They are going to be attacked. Maybe their funding might dry up. And so this shutdown is not about the American people, not about the pain that America experiences because of the shutdown. This is because Democrats are concerned about their own hide, and they've sold the country to the most radical element of their country. And I think that's really shameful. It's too bad. I also want to thank the Congress, led by Sam Graves. Many of you have seen what's happened with our air traffic control system. It's old, it's antiquated, it's safe, but it has to be massively rebuilt. We need a new system, and I want to thank the House for leading that effort. We've asked for $31.5 billion. We got a down payment of $12.5 billion to begin that really important work. Before the shutdown, we have crafted our teams in a way that can keep that work moving forward. It doesn't stop during the shutdown because, again, 6 months from now, you all...
More boxes, more options. Grainger has over 1,700 box types in stock and ready to help you pack, store, and ship everything. And you can count on Grainger to deliver your boxes fast. Count on Grainger for boxes. Call or click Grainger.com/boxes today.
The Congress is focused, at least in the Senate, on paying for health care benefits for illegals as opposed to paying their paychecks for the great work that they provide to the American people. That makes them angry. You've seen, as the Speaker mentioned, across the national airspace, we see there's certain centers or TRACONs or towers where we'll see a lower staffing. When we have lower staffing, what happens is you'll see delays or cancellations. But it's not one tower, it's not one TRACON, it's not one center, it's maybe one center one day, it's a TRACON another day, it's kind of moving throughout the national airspace. But it's causing disruptions. So a week ago, last Tuesday, air traffic controllers got 90% of their pay because that paycheck came from most of it for the work they did in September. So they got most of the money. Next Tuesday is the first paycheck that they will not receive for the work that they did in October. And to the Speaker's point, we have air traffic controllers who work more than 5 days a week. They work 6 days a week to make sure they can cover air travel throughout the country. And so if you have a controller that's working 6 days a week but has to think about how am I going to pay the mortgage, how am I going to make the car payment, how am I going to put food on my kid's table, they have to make choices. And the choices they're making is to take a second job. Well, I don't want my air traffic controllers to take a second job. I want them to do one job. I don't want them delivering for DoorDash. I don't want them driving Uber. I want them coming to their facilities and controlling the airspace. But they're having to make decisions about how they spend their time to make sure they put food on their table, feed their kids, and support their family members. I want to make one other point really clear. Some have asked about safety, or you maybe ask me if I'll let you give me some questions. Safety is paramount for us. And so if we don't have the staffing levels in a tower, TRACON, or center, you will see us delay traffic. You will see us cancel flights. Because I want you to get to where you're going. I want America to get to their destination and get there safely. And it's not moving as many flights as possible. It's moving as many flights as possible safely. That is our mission. That is our number one goal. And if we can't do that, you'll see the flights come down. You will see the delays and you'll see the cancellations. One other problem that I want to address that we're seeing now in the shutdown, you've seen that we don't have enough air traffic controllers. We're 2,000 or 3,000 air traffic controllers short. And so what I've done is I've developed a plan to supercharge air traffic controllers into our system. The President said, bring in the best and the brightest, young men and women to work in this space, which is what we've done. We've shortened the timeline from testing to get into to our facility where we train our air traffic controllers in Oklahoma City. Shorten the timeline. Get the best and the brightest. The highest test scores come in first. And that's what we've done. It's going to be a multi-year process to make up the shortfall that we have in the system. But I'm getting word now from Oklahoma City where I have young air traffic controller students who are now telling me, what the hell am I doing? Why am I going to take this job? They're thinking about leaving the academy, smart young men and women, because they don't want to work for a system that won't pay them. That doesn't guarantee them a paycheck. And their paychecks are at risk. We pay those controllers as they go through the academy. We don't pay them a lot of money either. They rely on that. And when that money doesn't come, it creates not just disruptions for when Democrats in the Senate decide to forego the crazy left and actually fight for America. That's problems that ricochet in the months and the years to come. And I think it's important that we tell that story. Because if we don't, I think that you can give the Democrats a pass. We have to talk about the real consequences of what this shutdown does, talk about who we're fighting for, and why this matters, to, again, open up your government. Open it up. It's easy. And then sit down and negotiate. Have a conversation. But to allow the radical element in the Senate to hold America hostage, I think would be shameful. That's not how we operate. We don't negotiate when that is the structure set by Democrats. So I'm all in favor of making sure this funding comes. Let's open it up. Let's have a great conversation. Let's figure out where we go forward. And I think that would be the most common sense approach. But I'll just tell you this. I want to reiterate, we are all about safety. And we will make sure we work every day on that part of our job. But again, I can't guarantee you that your flight's going to be on time. I can't guarantee you that your flight's not going to be canceled. It's going to depend on our air traffic controllers coming in to work every single day. And again, my message to them is, one, thank you for coming and working. We appreciate that. Come to work. Even if you don't get a paycheck, we need you to come to work. But if they do not, we'll know whose fault it is. And I just want to say, as I introduce Sam Graves, Sam has been a champion in the airspace. The industry loves him. No one has done more to drive this reform of how we build a brand new air traffic control system, thinking it through, driving it through the Congress, making the sales pitch than Sam Graves. And I couldn't be more grateful for his friendship and partnership. And so I think Sam is going to go right now. And again, I appreciate the leadership team here as well. Even guys from Minnesota are okay too. So thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mr. Secretary. As chairman of the Transportation Committee, I do want to point out what has already been pointed out, and that is our skies are safe. They are very safe for folks to travel and for folks to be able to get to where they need to go. And I do want to commend our air traffic controllers straight up, because, and this just goes to show you just how steadfast they are. They're showing up for work, they're doing the job, and they're making sure that that our skies stay safe. I've got a number of good friends who are air traffic controllers, and they have expressed extreme frustration because of this situation. They're worried about getting paid. They're worried about, as was pointed out, meeting that mortgage and being able to make the car payment or whatever the payment is that they have to do, or take care of their family. Something as simple as that. I do want to commend the Secretary and the President for filling all of the open seats at the Academy in Oklahoma City. They hit their quota of 2,000 new air traffic control students that are learning, and I want to commend them on increasing the pay for students going to the Academy. It's needed, and it's also needed to be able to attract the best and the brightest that are out there. As the Speaker pointed out, this is political gamesmanship on Senator Schumer's part, and it's unfortunate that he's weaponizing the air traffic controllers and he's weaponizing families as we go into the holiday season. When it comes to those delays that will ultimately probably happen, and the cancellations that are probably going to happen. And as the Secretary pointed out, we need to remember who it is that is causing this and why they are causing this. This is political games. All we need to do is pass the clean CR so we can move forward and then talk about these things that need to be talked about. So, thank you. Mr. Leader. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam, and appreciate the job that our chairman of the Transportation Committee is doing. Really appreciate the job that our Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Duffy, has been doing, and especially want to thank those air traffic controllers who are showing up to work. Work that even in normal times is an incredibly stressful job. You know, as you can imagine, at any airport in America, but especially the busy ones, you might have dozens of flights coming in and out every single hour. And their job is to manage those flights so that everybody on those planes lands or takes off safely and gets to their destination safely. That's their job, that's their priority, it's their passion. And yet, when you add to that, again, in normal times, an incredibly stressful job, when you add to that the uncertainty of whether or not they're even going to get paid, while they still have the obligations of paying their house note, their rent, their car note, putting food on the table, adding that extra level of stress to an already stressful job is really straining the system. And so, as Secretary Duffy talked about, some have taken get second jobs, jobs that take them away from their current job. It's led to flight delays. It's led to real hardships for American families. As we're approaching Easter, Thanksgiving in just a couple of weeks, imagine you're planning your Thanksgiving vacation to go see your family somewhere else, maybe a kid returning from college to go see their family for the first time in a few months, and you don't know if the flight is going to be scheduled, if the flight's going to be on time, if you're going to be able to make it home. This is unnecessary. And people are starting more and more to ask the question, why is this going on? Why do Democrats continue to vote no? Not on a bill that solves all of our differences, a bill that just keeps the government running, puts the food on the table of those air traffic controllers while we negotiate our differences. That's all we're talking about, a clean CR, a bill that just lets us keep the government running while we still negotiate the big differences we have. And more over the last few weeks, you've heard Democrat senators say it out loud while they're casting no vote after no vote after no vote. Hundreds of times, by the way. Over 600 times, Democrats in Washington have voted to shut the government down. Think about that. Over 600 times between the House vote, the Senate votes over and over again, as if it's just some repetition. All it takes is 5 Democrat senators to have the courage to say, let's just open the government back up again so we can negotiate our differences. But they're starting to say publicly what we've said out here, what they've been saying privately, is they're scared to death of their far left radical base. That's why the Democrats did it. It has nothing to do with policy differences. That's what we can negotiate when the government's open. And everybody knows that. And so why are they doing it? And here we go. And you heard the speaker talk about it, but you had the House minority whip. Quote, shutdowns are terrible, of course. There will be families that are going to suffer, but it is one of the few leverage times we have. Leverage. Yeah, sure, they're okay with people suffering, but boy, does it give them leverage. For what? To appease their radical base, to show their radical base they're fighting Donald Trump. So they've made the calculation it's okay to cause suffering to families. Schumer, of course, quote, every day gets better for us. Who's us? It sure isn't the American people. It sure isn't those air traffic controllers who are working 6 highly stressful days managing safely our air traffic control system while then they leave that job to go drive for Uber or for DoorDash. That's not a better day for them, but boy, Chuck Schumer's happy. Bernie Sanders, quote, you reopen the government and we lose our leverage. That's what this whole shutdown is about. Close quote. That's Bernie. Leverage. You hear it over and over again. The American people, especially federal workers, are considered by Democrats to be leveraged, to be pawns in their game. Senator Coons, quote, the point of this shutdown is not just suffering for suffering's sake, but to make a point. What point? A point that you can cause suffering on other people so you can get leverage to go back home to Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York City and show the socialists, look at me, I've made Donald Trump, have to go and move some money around to figure out a way to pay federal employees. I'm creating chaos in Washington. That's what they want to do. That's their leverage, so they can get some pat on the back from socialists and Marxists who want chaos in America. It's disgraceful. And everybody knows it, but they don't care. They don't care because as long as they're appeasing the radical base, that's what their leverage is all about. The American people to Democrats are considered pawns for leverage to go and make the far left radical base look like they're fighting Donald Trump. And I'm going to finish with this. Air traffic controllers, again, as Secretary Duffy, as Chairman Graves have talked about. Right now, 13,000 air traffic controllers are working without pay. 13,000. Some of our air traffic controllers who work 6 days a week, or you've heard it, driving Uber, doing all these other things. Nick Daniels, the president of the Air Traffic Controllers Association, said, quote, to think that somehow we can live with, you'll get paid eventually. That doesn't pay the controllers. That doesn't pay the mortgage. That doesn't pay gas. That doesn't pay the food bill. That's the burden. That's the burden, those 13,000 air traffic controllers, whose job every day is to keep us safe when we fly on airplanes, is, and why do they have that extra stress? Why do they have that extra burden? So that Senate Democrats can feel like they've got leverage over who, over what, to what end? This is madness. There is no end for them. They just think this is some kind of game and the American people are pawns in that game. It's got to end. Our whip, Tom Emory.
Shutdowns are terrible. Of course, there will be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility seriously. But it is one of the few leverage times we have. You've heard that 3 times now. A direct quote from the number 2 Democrat in the House, Catherine Clark. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, which is Catherine Clark's home state, 45,000 federal workers are being forced to figure out how they're going to pay their bills next week. More than 1 million SNAP enrollees and 123,000 women, infant, and children who require nutritional assistance, they're going to be impacted, Catherine. Telehealth services and a home hospital program have been put on pause. Tens of thousands of travelers who come through Massachusetts airports are at risk of experiencing flight cancellations and delays, as you heard from the Secretary this morning. Obviously, we can go on and on about the ways people in Whip Clark's home state and across the country are being forced to suffer because the Democrats refuse to reopen the government. But they don't care, because to them, suffering is leverage. To them, this is one big political game. It doesn't matter that millions of Americans are hurting because, as Chuck Schumer says, every day gets better. For us, what a disgusting, despicable mentality to have. The truth of the matter is, Democrats could end their shutdown madness today if they would simply do their jobs. All they have to do is stop playing politics, pass our clean CR, and reopen the government for the people they were elected to serve. We're going to continue giving them opportunities to do the right and reasonable thing. The question is not whether they are able. The question is whether they are willing. I hope they come to their senses soon. But until then, we're going to hold them to account, and we expect everyone in this room to do the same. Lisa McClain.
Thank you, and thank you, Sam, for being here today, and thanks, Secretary Duffy, for being here as well to talk about the reality of the air traffic controllers and the American people. The American people deserve the truth. Republicans are out there serving the American people, while Democrats are using suffering of the American people as leverage. And let me say that again because I believe it is warranted. Republicans serve, Democrats use. And you don't have to take my word for it. I know you've heard it, but I need to say it again because I was on a news station this morning, and when they played Catherine Clark's comments, the question to me was, why are Republicans so upset about it? Why are Republicans upset about it? Everybody should be upset about it. I mean, this is what she said, the second highest ranking Democrat in Congress. This is what she said yesterday. Congresswoman Clark admitted, and I quote, "Of course there will be families that are going to suffer, but it's one of the few leverage times we have." Let that sink in for one moment. They are admitting, she is admitting, yes, American families are going to suffer, but we got to use you as leverage. Let that sink in. Does that not outrage anybody? I'll tell you who it does outrage, the American families that are actually suffering. So let me share this with you. And what I need you to ask them is, what are they suffering for? So what are the Democrats using the American people suffering for? What leverage are they using that for? Well, let me tell you. To push their $1.5 trillion in wasteful spending, to fund health care for illegals, the Democrats think it's right for the American people to suffer so that we can deliver Sesame Street to Iraq. Sesame Street in Iraq? Democrats, Catherine, she thinks that's all right to have the American people suffer for that. Someone connect those dots for me. I mean, seriously. I hope to God you are asking her why. Because the questions that I get is, why do you think that's bad? Are you kidding me? I mean, we have lost our minds. They've lost their minds. It's disgusting and it's insulting, right? They want to bankroll LGBTQ propaganda in South America on the backs of Americans suffering. Again, let that one sink in. And you know what? That does make me angry. That does make me angry. And it should make all of you angry too. Democrats are squeezing working families just to bankroll their pet projects. Good job of leveraging suffering on the American family. Meanwhile, Republicans are doing what we always do. We're rolling up our sleeves and we're doing the work. Let me give you some examples. Congressman Zach Nunn met with rural health care providers and first responders. Right? Remember, the Democrats are the ones that want to repeal that $50 billion for rural health care. right? They talk out of both sides of the mouth. So concerned about health care, but let's repeal the $50 billion back. Okay. Congressman Bilirakis met with troops working without pay and veterans struggling to access services. Dozens of Republicans are back home cleaning up parks, volunteering at food banks, and helping struggling families. The contrast couldn't be more clear. Democrats see suffering as leverage. Republicans see it as a call to serve. So here's my message to Democrats. Stop holding the American people hostage. Stop being okay with Americans' families suffering. Stop playing games. Open up the government. Get back to work, and get back to work to serving the people who actually elected you to do your job. Thank you.
All right, a few questions. Manu, go ahead.
You said yesterday you were still trying to get the details of this $230 million the president has asked for the Justice Department to pay for his legal bills. Now that you've had some time, perhaps, to get the details, are you okay with taxpayers potentially being on the hook for that kind of money?
I'm not trying to dodge the question. I haven't had time to get the details. Okay, that's still on my list, things to do list. Yesterday was almost literally a 21-hour workday. Yes, sir. Back row.
Legislation in the Senate to pay air traffic controllers during the shutdown. If that does pass in the Senate, would you bring the House back and vote on that? And then, absent congressional action, would you work with the White House to find a way to pay air traffic controllers during the shutdown? And where would you pull that money from?
Well, let me answer the questions in reverse order. We did work with the White House to get air traffic controllers paid. It's called the Clean CR. We passed it in the House September 19th. By my count, it's 33 days ago. It's been... Yep. Yes, yes. They're trying to find... The White House has bent over backwards to mitigate the harms to the American people. We got WIC funded by a bootstrap in a 1930s era statute regarding tariff revenue. He found unobligated funds in the R&D accounts at DOD to get the troops paid in the middle of October. But we're running out of resources. They're running out of creative ideas, and there is not an existing pot of money that could cover the air traffic controllers' salaries right now. And so that is why we have to get the government reopened. Again, all this madness stop, and the Democrats have now voted 13 times to keep the government closed. With regard to your first question, there will be a measure on the Senate floor today that Leader Thune and the Republicans are desperately trying to make sure that all these people are covered. They want all essential workers in all these categories to actually get their paycheck, even if the Democrats keep the government shut down. We are told that the Democrats have vowed to vote no on that measure. So they will not vote today. That's what we understand to be the case. They will vote against restoring paychecks to troops, Border Patrol agents, air traffic controllers, TSA agents, and all the rest. And it's unconscionable to us, but again, it's another step in their political game as they're using all of these people, hardworking Americans and their families, as leverage for their political purposes to cover their own tails with the radical left. Jed.
If it's so important to pay the air traffic controllers, you said you want to see what happens in the Senate. Why wouldn't you commit right now and say, we're going to have the House back in session and we're going to vote? Because you know as well as I do sometimes when one body moves something, it gives impetus to the other body.
Well, no, I don't know that. We just demonstrated it's not true, Chad. We passed the CR to get everybody paid. If I brought everybody back right now and we voted on a measure to do this, to pay essential workers, it would be spiked in the Senate. They're going to show you this afternoon that they would spike that bill. So it would be a waste of our time, and it would take the pressure off Chuck Schumer to get his job done and open the government again. This is what's so infuriating to us. Yes, sir.
You said yesterday that this needs to be assessed on a day-by-day basis. Now we're on day 23. Has the needle moved at all between the last 24 hours and what's it look like the next week or so?
Well, look, we do assess it day by day, hour by hour, because if you remember, the original CR was going to extend and allow 7 additional weeks for us to finish the appropriations process to November 21. Well, now they've eaten up, the month of October, and we're getting closer and closer to that deadline, and so it is something that we take into account. It's a day-by-day evaluation. I will tell you that appropriators are working right now, even though we're not on the House floor, and they're preparing the next batch of bills, and there's discussions going on at the leadership level, and among appropriators across chambers and across the aisle, because they're serious people that understand we have to do serious work. And so we continue to evaluate it. But our plea today is to the Democrats. Please, 5 centrists in the Senate, do the right thing. You know what the right thing is. Play the tape. You can find a floor speech or media interview with every single Democrat in the Senate. Every single one of them have given impassioned speeches. We could come up here in lieu of a press conference and show you their own words where they say that this should never happen, that it would be harmful to the country and harmful to people, and now they're saying they don't care. They know better. They know in their hearts this is wrong, and we're asking them to stop it. Back row.
Last question. Speaker Johnson, Louisiana and a lot of other states have foreign SNAP recipients that won't get benefits next month.
Yep.
Reportedly, some Republicans are considering a bill standalone on that. If they did pass it, would you be open to doing so here?
If the Senate passes the bill, then the House will address that. I talked to my Governor Jeff Landry in Louisiana, who greatly laments. We have lots of SNAP recipients in our state, as we do in many others. And you're talking about, I think it's 42 or 43 million Americans rely upon that vital service. And it's unconscionable that they would be held at bay and held as leverage on this. That's the pain that Chad Pergram asked Whip Clark yesterday, the pain that American families would suffer. And she said, yeah, it's regrettable, but hey, this is our time of leverage. We just let their own words speak for themselves. We're not for that. The Democrats are. I'll leave you with this thought. Republicans have now voted 13 times to open your government. The Democrats have voted 13 times to close it. The Democrats own the shutdown and all these horrible consequences, and you need to remind them of that. Thank you.
It is day 23 now of the government shutdown, and joining us, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, welcome. It's good to have you on.
Good to be with you as always, Joe.
No King's Day has come and gone. Some people thought that Leader Schumer was waiting for that, to look strong for his left flank, and then something was likely to break. Are there any signs of that? We don't see it reported, but we've been told a couple times that senators are constantly talking to each other. Senators are talking to you. Senators, House people are talking to each other and to you. What can you tell us?
Well, I'm one that really believed that after the Hate America rally on Saturday, that's what we called it, because it was, funded by George Soros and co-sponsored by the Communist Party of the USA and many other nefarious groups. But we really thought that after that display, that Chuck Schumer would come to his senses. Remember, he's been in Congress for 44 years, and every year until now he has said, and he even said this year, as recently as March, that shutting the government down would cause great pain to the American people, and it could never be done, should never be done. Well, he changed his tune because he's trying to appeal to that radical leftist base in the party, because he's terrified. Because the last time he did the right thing, when he voted for this identical CR back in March, he took a lot of heat. He's unwilling to do that again because he's afraid he's going to receive a challenge from one of the Marxist leftists in New York, or maybe AOC. So that's really the sum total of it. Yesterday, Joe, we're losing heart a little bit, because yesterday, the second-ranked Democrat in the House, Whip Clark, Catherine Clark, was on an interview that you probably saw a clip of because it's gone around the world, and she said the quiet part out loud. She said, we know that families are going to suffer because of this shutdown, but, she said, this is one of the few leverage times we have. She admitted that they have chosen to shut the government down to use the people as leverage, and real people are being harmed because of it.
Well, they they believe that this Obamacare subsidy, or at least what would happen if the subsidies weren't renewed, I guess, in her view, what's happening, the lesser of two evils. No one wants the government to be shut down. She thinks it's that important for health care. And you've heard all whenever we have a Democrat on, the Speaker, they spend most of the time with anecdotes about people with cancer and what's going to happen and people that are going to die and all these things. I had an overall question for you, and then we'll get back to the government shutdown. There's a piece in the Journal today on how quickly health care insurance is rising. Up 7% 2 years ago, 7% 1 year ago, 6% this year. So it costs $27,000 now for a family plan. So my question is it Obamacare premiums are going up because they're causing it, or because they're just responding to overall health care inflation, which we haven't been able to control?
Well, these are very important questions, but before I answer that, let me say this. When they say they're using the shutdown as leverage, what is it they're trying to obtain out of that? What's the point? It's not the health care subsidy extension. That's a red herring. That's their talking point, distraction that they've globbed onto. They actually put on paper, Joe, what they want. They want $1.5 trillion new dollars of wasteful spending. They want to prop up leftist news organizations with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with $500 million. They want to send billions of dollars back overseas to social programs in foreign countries. We're not doing that. And importantly, they want to extend those Obamacare subsidies permanently without any reforms. Oh, by the way, restoring health care to illegal aliens again. That's $200 billion of their demand. That's what they're leveraging. They're using the American people as pawns in this game to leverage to get all of that, and we can't and we will not do it. On the subsidy, it's a very important point. The cost of health care has skyrocketed since Obamacare was created in 2010. It did exactly the opposite of what they promised us. The Democrats did that entirely on their own with no Republicans because we knew that it was a boondoggle. We knew it was created and that the system was designed so that it would implode upon itself. Remember, the main architects of Obamacare wanted single payer. They wanted the government to be in charge of all health care. So they designed this system, and it's doing exactly what we all knew that it would ultimately do. The subsidy is a COVID-era subsidy. The Democrats created it themselves. They put the expiration date on it at the end of this calendar year. And why did they do that? Because they knew they could not reasonably argue or get the votes for a permanent subsidy like this. When the government subsidizes something, it means it's not working. And what we're doing here is subsidizing insurance companies. So we need massive reform before that could be extended.
Look, I think everybody saw New York Congressman Lawler confront Leader Jeffries with a one-year extension. And now I understand that 13 House GOP lawmakers, led by Jeff Van Drew, Jen Kiggins, did send you a letter saying we should do a one-year extension. I guess that's what they're proposing.
Well, they did, but in the letter they acknowledge what I just said, that it needs real reform because
is that a way
work.
this ends? Is that a way this ends, Mr. Speaker, or that's not what happens, you think?
Well, no, look, Joe, it's a very important point. We were always planning. We always knew that October and November would be the time to figure that out and build consensus around the reforms and get everybody together. But it's ironic that the Democrats have shut the government down and prevented that from happening. That is the whole point. We need the lights back on. We need government reopened. We need troops paid, TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, and air traffic controllers, and Veterans Health Services, and nutrition services to young women and the elderly. We need all that going while Congress is here doing its work. But Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are playing politics, again, because they need political cover for themselves. It is selfish and it is dangerous.
Speaker Johnson, Ro Khanna was here earlier, the Democratic congressman from California, and he asked us to ask you if you would open the Congress so that you could have votes. He said he would support paying the troops, paying those critical workers for the government. He would vote for those bills along those lines. He asked if you'd do that.
Well, Ro's my friend. I have great respect for him, but he did vote against those very things on September 19th. That's what the CR was. The continuing resolution was to keep all of those people paid, and every Democrat in the House voted against that. They voted to close the government down and stop those services. Now, if we were here today and we had another vote on the floor, it would not change that outcome, because the Senate Democrats just batted that down last week. They voted down pay for troops and the defense appropriations bill. They're going to do it again, I think, today, because Leader Thune is going to put on the floor a bill to pay essential workers, all those categories of folks that I just named that are, putting on a uniform every day and protecting the country and protecting our borders and making sure the skies are safe. And the Democrats have already told us they're going to vote against that. So it would be a pointless exercise in the House, and that is why I keep emphasizing the House has done its job. We voted to fund the government. We voted to do all these things 33 days ago. And that bill has been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk. They will not pass it over there, again, because he promised the radical left that he would show a fight against Trump, no matter the pain that it causes on the American people. And now the Democrat leaders in the House are admitting that that's exactly what they are doing.
Mr. Speaker, Ro Khanna also mentioned the situation with the Arizona House member that has not been sworn in. And I guess there's a lawsuit that's been filed by the AG out there. It gives or Congressman Khanna an opportunity to say that would be the vote that would allow the Epstein files to have to be released. And he said that's why you're not calling back Congress to swear her in.
Okay, this is so absurd, and I've answered it so many times, but I'll do it again.
Sorry.
Rep. Grijalva-elect is no. Thanks for asking it, Joe, because they keep using this as some sort of distraction. It's totally pointless. Okay, Rep. Grijalva was elected after the House went out of session, so we are delighted to administer the oath to her as soon as we get back to regular session here, legislative session. That's the whole point. By the way, I'm following the Pelosi precedent. She was Speaker here a long time. She did this many times. Julia Letlow, my friend from Louisiana, was elected in similar circumstances to replace her late husband who passed away from COVID. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath to her. We had Pat Ryan and Joe Simpolinski, Democrats, who were elected during an August recess. Nancy Pelosi took 21 days to administer the oath to them because she had to wait until we came back to legislative session. Same exact scenario. Rep. Grijalva can work. Rep-elect Grijalva can work for her constituents right now, constituent services, answering the phone. She has computers and 16 employees, and there's no excuse for it, okay? The Epstein files are being released. 43,000 pages now. There was another batch of documents dumped on Friday of last week, which included Epstein's personal ledgers, his financial ledgers, his daily calendar, his flight logs, all the things that people have been saying they wanted. It's all coming out. Why? Because the House Oversight Committee has been working through this period, even when we're not on the House floor, to go through and dig through the Epstein estate files and all the rest and get them out. So these are all distractions from the main point. They have shut the government down for political purposes, and we got to get it reopened.
Speaker, we spoke to your predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, earlier this week, and he made an interesting point, though, about what you're describing, which is that it is politics. And I'm not suggesting it isn't when you even look at what Nancy Pelosi did. And we could just, if we wanted together, we could say this is a disgrace and condemn the fact that politics are taking place here and that there is a precedent. But I think rather than look to that, the question is, it doesn't have to be this way. This is a choice that's being made. And I think that is the issue here. And so this idea that it can't be done in some other way. And I'd raise it because the other issue is, what would happen if you actually took those votes and hard votes and won those votes? Wouldn't that be the better path?
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to because we did that. I mean, look, the CR that we sent over is a totally clean, nonpartisan document. It's 24 pages in length. It literally is the bare minimum language just to keep everything at status quo. And I will point out to you, status quo is Biden-era policies and spending. We don't even like it. Republicans are trying to change that. But our appropriators were working through the process, trying to rebuild that muscle memory to get the regular order back to appropriating so we can be better stewards of taxpayer dollars. And in a bipartisan fashion, R's and D's were working on that. They just ran out of time because the end of the fiscal year was September 30th. So they decided, think of this, the Republican and Democrat appropriators got together and said, give us 7 more weeks. Give us till November 21st, and let's just do it clean. And the Democrats asked us, please don't put any partisan priorities on that measure. So we didn't. We did it in good faith. This is the first time in American history that any party has had the audacity to shut the government down over a clean, nonpartisan CR. I cannot emphasize that enough. That's what's different about now than all the times in the past. Both parties fighting over party priorities. We didn't do that this time. I have nothing to negotiate. I have nothing I can offer them because I can't pull any of my Republican priorities off the CR and make it more palatable because we didn't add them in the first place. This was a good faith effort to allow more time for the appropriators to finish their job, plain and simple. And that's what makes this so remarkable and so especially painful for people.
There's also been reports, Mr. Speaker, that Leader Schumer would like to have almost a backroom negotiation. Maybe it would involve President Trump. Maybe it would involve a Majority Leader Thune. Maybe you as well. To just get a couple of things out, not the whole 1.5 trillion, all the things that you outlined, but maybe just the Obamacare enhanced subsidies. Can you confirm that has been something that Senator Schumer? Yeah.
Yeah, I can confirm it. He said it publicly, breathlessly. He's complained that 4 leaders won't go in a back room, smoke-filled room, and make a deal. That's not how this works. I don't operate that way. When I became Speaker, I vowed to my colleagues that we would return to regular order. I would decentralize the Speaker's office, and it would not be a top-down, hoisted upon the membership kind of program anymore. This is a member-driven, consensus-driven operation. That's how the founders intended it to work. They did not want 4 people to go in a back room and make a deal. By the way, I couldn't do that on something as complicated as extension of Obamacare COVID subsidies because we have to find the consensus. There's 100 different ideas on how to improve that, and we needed the time in October and November to work through that with all the members. I refuse to go in a back room with Chuck Schumer and make a deal. I don't operate that way. It's not good for the people. It's not good for financial stewardship, and it's part of the reason we're $37 trillion in debt as a nation, because you have 2 or 3 or 4 people in a back room doing that. We're not operating that way. That's Chuck Schumer's old way. We need this to work for the people again, and that's what I'm insistent upon. And I'll keep telling them that publicly and privately.
We had Senator Shaheen on earlier this week, and she was, I don't know, on someone's wish list as maybe a Democrat that could be swayed to join with the other 3 to get the additional 5 because she's not running for re-election. But she gave us no inkling that was in the works. Are there other discussions that you can tell us about that you've heard of going on? Is that the way this ends, that people break with Leader Schumer, or is it going to be done with Leader Schumer?
I am afraid that you're going to have a few more break ranks, and that's my prayer that they will. There are a handful of centrist Democrats left. I mean, she's one of them. Who are reasonable and common sense and have voted every time in their career to keep the government open. As recently, as I said, earlier this year, 13 times during the 4 years of the Biden administration, they voted on CRs, and every one of those people gave speeches on the floor and in media interviews saying how important that was to do. I do not have any hope right now that Chuck Schumer is going to do the right thing. I think it's too late. I think he's lost in that cause because he knows that if he folds to the Marxist left, remember, Marxism is all the rage in New York City right now. You're watching the mayor's race, right? He knows he's going to get a challenge from AOC or one of the other Mamdani disciples in his race, and he will lose. He's not very popular right now, obviously, because of the way he does all this. So he knows that if he folds right now, he's going to take it on the chin. So our objective right now is to plead with some common sense Democrats who care about the country more than themselves and do the right thing, pass the nonpartisan CR so we can get the lights back on, get Congress working for the people again, and sort through all the rest of these complicated issues for the rest of the year.
Okay, so we get that done eventually. Hope springs eternal. We get some kind of deal for a 1-year, extension on the subsidies. How do we prevent that from being the 10-year, $350 billion boondoggle that's going to happen if we don't fix what the underlying cause of the health care inflation? What do we need to do? What are Republicans?
Such an important point. We have volumes of ideas that we literally have published to bring down the cost of health care and stop the madness. We have to build consensus around those to get it done. But I'll give you a quick example. In the big, beautiful bill, in the Working Families Tax Cut that we passed and got signed into law July 4th, we included in the House version of that bill the cost-sharing reductions model. It would have brought premiums down 12% for the average American, and it would have saved taxpayers $30 billion. You know what they did, the Senate Democrats? They took that provision out of the bill. They fought it. They got it batted down in the Byrd rule analysis, and they kicked it out of the bill. And you know what that did instead? So now they want to extend the Obamacare subsidies. Remember, the cost-sharing reduction, just that one measure, would have brought premiums down 12%. The Obamacare subsidy extension is going to increase premiums. In some categories, it would drop at about 5%. 5.7% is actual number. But it's going to cost us more, because doing that will cost, as you said, $350 billion over 10 years. We have to change the system. We have to find ways in a bipartisan manner to make Obamacare affordable for more people, to increase access to care, and to stop the practices of the insurance industry right now, which are denying about 30% of claims automatically or more in some categories, and the prices continuing to skyrocket. When the government dumps more money on a bad system, it makes it worse. And that is the reality. We have to make everybody face that, and then we got to build the consensus around the solutions. We have lots of ideas. The Republican Party is the party ready to fix that, and we're demonstrating that every day. We brought down costs in Medicaid, and we strengthened the program in the big, beautiful bill, because we got ineligible enrollees off the program, and we brought down the cost. It's going to save, the CBO says, the measures that we did in that bill on Medicaid, for example, are going to save $185 billion. So they're good ideas, Joe. We just need time to work through the consensus to do it. But we got to get the lights back on here. Again, we got to open the government so that all of that can happen.
Speaker Johnson, Ro Khanna did agree with some of the things you just said. The idea that he thinks part of the problem comes from private industry that is not paying for, premiums going up and not paying for a lot of the for the procedures that people request or that doctors request too. He mentioned that. He also said he agrees that the Republican Party has good ideas. He came up with the idea of President Trump's executive order on Big Pharma, said that he had put legislation before the House that he would like to see a vote on that would codify that executive order that the pharmaceutical companies seem to think will get struck down by the courts. Are you in favor of doing something like that?
Well, look, I'll say this about Ro. He's a good man. He's a very intelligent guy, and he's always operated in good faith around here, and I appreciate that about him. And Ro and I and others can sit around the table and, like I said, in a bipartisan manner and work through some of these things. And they're good ideas on the table, but we got to have everybody here doing that. And we're not going to allow Chuck Schumer to hold the American people hostage so they can get $1.5 trillion new in spending. Remember, don't get lost in that. That's what they filed in the record. That's what they are demanding in exchange for opening the government, and they know we can't do that. So it's time to come to their senses and stop the nonsense. Stop using the people as leverage, as Democrat Whip Clark acknowledged yesterday.
All right, we know you got to run, Mr. Speaker. Once again, thanks for all your time this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
$500 a year. That's how much your power bill has gone up because of the Georgia Public Service Commission. They've raised your rates over 10 times. And now Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson are running for re-election. They're supposed to protect us from the power company. Instead, they're using power company profits to fund their campaigns. It's corruption, plain and simple. And you're paying the bill. This November, you can vote them out.
Doesn't sound good, but Washington was the most dangerous place in this country, and now, you know what? It's probably the safest place in our country. Everyone's starting to come here. The restaurants now you can't get in. Many of them closed because they couldn't open with crime. Everybody before me is happy what I'm doing. Most of you won't say that because you're radical left. The newspapers are so dishonest. The press is totally dishonest, but that's all right. We've gotten used to it. And we won in a landslide, so they obviously lost their power. I mean, it's impossible to imagine that when you get 97% negative stories, purposely negative stories, even though you've done 97% positive things, that you could win an election in a landslide, winning all 7. Think of it, all 7 swing states, winning by the popular vote by millions of votes. We had it fantastic. The best is your districts out of 3,000 districts. I guess we won 3,500. We won 2,750, and they won 500. And that's, to me, the best of all. And we had tremendous in every way, the election. And it's hard to believe you can do that when you have a corrupt media. But many of you are corrupt, and it's nothing we can do about it. But we keep winning, and we're going to keep winning. And this whole story on crime is incredible that the Democrats wouldn't be with us. So the mayor of Chicago, I watched him this morning, he said, Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. He only apprehended 9 people. Well, number one, that's false. It's thousands. We'll get into that. But more importantly than anything, we took guns away. We have some of the worst career professionals out of the country already. They've been taken out of the country, and some are in solid confinement because these were killers. We arrested some very bad people. And in the last 11 days, again, I hate to say it because it sounds so ridiculous, but in the last 11 days, we've had no murders. And that's the first time that's taken place in years, actually years. We always have a murder a week. They call it a murder a week. You come here from Iowa, you come here from Indiana, you come here from Idaho, because you're so proud of your country, you love your country, and then you get murdered. Your son gets murdered, your daughter gets murdered, you get murdered. See the media, you get murdered. Many of you have been mugged in Washington, you just don't want to talk about it. And I know that every time I do this with you, you almost everything, but every time I do this with you, you people are saying to yourselves, he's right, and then you write a negative story. But we are doing an incredible job. The people behind me are amazing. We're working very well with the Washington police, as you know. The D.C. National Guard is unbelievable. We're also getting tremendous help from Secret Service. And we are at a point where Washington is booming again. People are pouring in like we haven't seen for years. Nobody wanted to come here. They didn't want to come here and get murdered. I have a friend of mine who has a very successful son. And I said, where is your son going to be this weekend? He said, he's going to Washington with his friends. I said, really? Yeah, he's wanted to do it for 4 years, but he couldn't do it because it was so unsafe. And he's a tough kid, too. It's so unsafe. And he ended up staying 3 nights, going out to restaurants all 3 nights. He said it was so beautiful, so peaceful, because all the criminals are either arrested or they're hiding. And we're finding the ones that are hiding. So I want to thank Pam Bondi. I want to thank our vice president. I want to thank everybody standing behind me. Because they are really, Gaddy, you've been unbelievable, by the way. They have done an unbelievable job. They're working 24 hours a day. And Washington, D.C. is now in great shape. I'm going to be working with Clark Construction, which is by far your biggest construction company. And we're going to also beautify Washington. We're going to rip down the broken medians, fix them. We're going to put asphalt on the roads. We're not ripping them apart like these stupid people do. They rip a road. They rip a road down to the dirt, and then they spend 5 years in building the new one, and then it starts settling. You know, the whole thing is so crazy. And they'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars on a road. I'll spend about $2, and it'll look better. So we're going to be replacing medians. We're going to be replacing much of the asphalt in the road, which in the city, which is in bad shape. We have great stripers. We have great contractors. But we have to let them do the thing. The Congress has said that they'll give us whatever money is needed to fix up the Capitol. This is the Capitol. And we're not going to spend a lot. It's going to go fast. And it will be spotless. And we want it spotless for the World Cup and for the Olympics. You saw the World Cup was here the other day. And come to think of it, there's your trophy for the World Cup. In fact, it's solid gold. That's actually solid gold. So heavy that some of the people in this room wouldn't be able to lift it up. I think what I'm going to do is place it right above the angel, right over there. That's solid gold, too. We're going to put it right up there. Look at that. There's a solid gold trophy. They know how to get to me, you know. I like the angel better, to be honest with you. So we're going to sign, and then we'll take a few questions, and we'll tell you how good a job we're doing. We want to go from here to other places, but I was telling some of the people that in a certain way, you really want to be asked to go. You know, I hate to barge in on a city and then be treated horribly by corrupt politicians and bad politicians, like a guy like Pritzker. He ought to spend more time in the gym, actually. This guy is a disaster. Gavin Newsom's a disaster. When we went, we saved Los Angeles. You wouldn't have been able to have the Olympics in Los Angeles. You're barely able to have it now. They did lose 25,000 houses to a fire that should have never occurred. because they didn't let the water come down from the Pacific Northwest, which you guys don't want to write about. I had to break into the water supply to let the water down. And even now, we want more. We can have much more. It's less than half of what should be coming in. I don't know, they have a political thing about it. It's like the craziest thing I've ever seen. But I don't like going to a town, a city, place, a state, and then be criticized by some corrupt or incompetent governor where crime is rampant. Like, take a look at D.C. Crime was rampant. It was at the all-time worst. It got really bad during the Biden 4 years. And then I have a mayor stand up and say how crime has reached a 30-year low. 30-year low. People are being killed left and right. And it's not a 30-year low. Think of it. So for 11 days, there's been no murders. The record goes back years where that's happened. They haven't seen that happen in years. And then people stand up, and instead of thanking us, which they should do, and she's not that bad. She's better than most. But, you know, you have people, I watched in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois is a disaster. I have property there. It's a disaster what's going on in Chicago. And you get Pritzker, he's violating our rights. I think this is another men and women's sports thing. I think this is one of those, you know, they call them 80-20 issues. I call them 97-3. I think the Democrats better get smart. And, you know, politically, I hope they don't. But actually, in terms of love for the country, I hope they do, because it would be good to work together. So I'm thinking about, you know, when I have some slob like Pritzker criticizing us before we even go there, I made the statement that next should be Chicago, because as you all know, Chicago is a killing field right now. And they don't acknowledge it. And they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom. He's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person. And when I see what's happening to our cities, and then you send in troops, instead of being praised, they're saying you're trying to take over the republic. These people are sick. But I'm really saying, and I say this to all of you, in a certain way, we should wait to be asked, because they have cities that are so under control, you know, out of control. So we go in and fix it. They take the full credit for it, and they go out and say, I heard it this morning. They're saying how well they've done over the last 10-day period, that they set record lows. They don't say that we're there with very tough people, by the way. They have to pass the toughness test. Otherwise, they're not working for us. So, and we're allowed to do that now according to the United States Supreme Court decision. Now, they have to pass a toughness test. If they're not tough, we don't want them for this job. They might be great for other jobs, but not for this job, because they're respected. You saw the gang of kids. They were all huddled up, and a group of soldiers walked up. They never even got over. Those kids ran back to their homes or wherever the hell they came from. They were gone. This is one of the safest cities right now in the world, as crazy as that sounds. And it took 7 days. It took really 3 days, but we're now in our 11th day. So I want to thank you. So we had all of these things, 439 illegal alien criminals have been removed, and we have 6 known gang members, some of the worst leaders of gangs anywhere in the country, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. We have 2 missing children that have been recovered. They thought they were gone. We brought them back to the family. The family started crying. They couldn't believe that they saw their child again. 49 homeless encampments have been removed. Like, we have the head of South Korea coming in a little while, the president, and he drives down the street. Already, his people have told me, he said, what happened? It's so clean. We always came here, it was filthy dirty with homeless and papers all over the road. That's the other thing. Those roads are swept immaculate, but they're going to be much better in a few months when we put a topping on them. They're going to look like they're brand new. We'll get rid of those rusty old medians that have been crashed into 1,000 times, and they don't fix them. They just let them, they lay them down on the road, and they sit there for months. But we don't do that. We don't run things. We run things like we run this. We like clean, we like beautiful, and we like safe, and that's what we're getting. So I'll start signing the executive orders. To me, this is a very, very big deal. One of the executive orders has to do with cashless bail. That was when the big crime in this country started. And I can tell you who did it, when, but I don't want to do that, because others followed pretty quickly. But that was when it happened. Somebody kills somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months, we'll give you a trial. You never see the person again. And I mean, they kill people and they get out. Cashless bail. They thought it was discriminatory to make people put up money because they just killed 3 people lying on a street. Any street all over the country, cashless bail. We're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization. Okay, let's go. Could I ask you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
all of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business and he becomes governor. Now he wants to run for president. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, we'll sign right here, right?
Sir.
So important. And this isn't Republican, Democrat. This is, and by the way, most Democrats agree with us. But this is just, we got to bring our country back. Okay? That's a big one.
Only at Qdoba.
Also on the issue of cashless bail, sir, this is a DC specific executive order. In addition to the measures that we're taking that are quite similar to what we're doing around the country, in DC in particular, the objective is holding as many criminal defendants in federal custody and subjecting them to federal charges as possible. That means that they'll be held pre-trial in federal jail as opposed to just being cut back out on the streets due to a cashless bail policy.
Okay? And we have the room. And by the way, the prison they have in D.C. is horrible. It's horrible. People were subjected to live in that dog trap for so long, so unfairly. I have stories, you'll be hearing about them. That prison is horrible. Okay?
This is an executive order that contains a number of additional measures relating to crime and law enforcement in Washington, D.C. It charges, for example, your Secretary of Defense with establishing specialized units in both the D.C. National Guard and in National Guard units around the country, specifically trained and equipped to deal with public order issues. It charges all of your various federal law enforcement agencies with hiring additional personnel to allow them to surge personnel to Washington, D.C. to deal with the current emergency here. It does a number of other things in that space, and it also asks the Attorney General to look at D.C. Metropolitan Police general orders that have currently impeded law enforcement efforts in the city, and to potentially look at unwinding those that are stopping the police from doing their job effectively.
And are we going to ask this to be codified by Congress, all of these things?
I think we could potentially, yes, sir.
I think so. I think we should. I think we'll get it to. I think Democrats will vote. Well, it's hard to believe that they might not, but I think Democrats will actually vote for this. There's no auto pen that can do that, right? Look at that, Pam. Is that a good signature? Seriously, is that a good signature? Who can write like that? Nobody. I don't know. That's the other thing. I assume we're looking at the whole auto pen scam.
Sir.
Because the person that ran it said he spoke to it briefly twice about nothing. That means that all those pardons that he gave to some very bad people, very unpatriotic people, very evil people, it looks to me like those pardons are worthless. Because number one, you shouldn't use an auto pen very specifically. But if you do, it has to be a very good reason. And they have to know that the president wanted it. The president didn't want this. The president didn't know he was alive, okay? He never approved any of this stuff. He wasn't for open borders and all the other things. He was never for open borders. I've known Biden a long time. He was never very sharp, but he was never in favor of open borders and all of the other things he did to destroy our country. Let's go.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You can do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. No early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act. 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it. But this is something that's, I don't know, in a certain way, it's equally as important. Some people would say it's more important. Because the people in this country don't want to see our American flag burned and spit on. And by people that are, in many cases, paid agitators. They're paid by the radical left to do it. You talk to these people, they don't even know, half of them don't even know what they're doing. They say, I don't know, they gave me money to do this. I see the same things that you do. They're bad people. They're trying to destroy our nation. That's not working, because I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world, by far. You saw that with the European leaders on Friday. You saw that with NATO, where they agreed to go from 2% no pay to 5% fully paid up, trillions of dollars paid, where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe, and I like those people. They're good people. They're great leaders. And we've never had a case where 7 plus really 28, essentially 38 countries were represented here the other day. 38 European countries were represented. European and other countries were represented. And it was a great meeting. But your country is respected again. I say it all the time. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Everybody said it. We had a dead country. We were not going to survive. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So it's an honor to be involved. And this group has a lot to do with it, right behind me.
Alicia Johnson is a mother, wife, and grandmother who pays Georgia Power bills just like you. And she sees the rising costs like you do. Working families shouldn't have to choose between paying electric bills and putting food on the table. If we elect Alicia Johnson to the Georgia Public Service Commission, she'll fight for lower energy bills and hold Georgia Power accountable. So vote for Alicia Johnson on Tuesday, November 4th. Paid for by Georgians for an Affordable Future.
Does anybody behind me have anything? Pam, would you like to say something?
Sure, President. Thank you for keeping D.C. safe. You know, just a couple examples of a mother, a single mom, whose house was burglarized, and the defendant got out on cashless bail, went back the next night and burglarized her house again. That's why this is so important. A man got in a fight with another guy. He had a gun. He was let out. Next night, he got out, went back and killed him. So that's why it's so important, President, what you're doing. And thank you for protecting the American flag. And we'll do that without running afoul of the First Amendment as well. And President, I think I think Gaddy Serralta had something he wanted to give you on behalf of all the law enforcement who are out there every
Mr.
single
President,
night.
yes. Thank you for putting me in charge of this surge. As the Director of the United States Marshal Service, it's the oldest law enforcement agency. It was created in 1789. So on behalf of all the federal law enforcement agencies that we're working with and those that have yet to join the team, we thought it was only appropriate to present you with an honorary United States Marshal Service badge. And this badge comes with this little item right here, which is a handcuff key, Mr. President, because you continue through your policies and your efforts with your staff to unhandcuff law enforcement officers all over this nation. And I can tell you personally that they thank you for that.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
You can continue unhandcuffing law enforcement.
That's a very great honor. I'll save that and put it someplace up, which is important. Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Really nice. Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you. Well, we love those people. They're brave and they love our country and they don't want to see it. Do you know how many people volunteered for this job? And before I ask the VP to say a few words, because he feels very strongly about it, I think it's very important, Pam, that when we do this, that a state they come and ask us. I mean, I see Pritzker saying, we don't want them. In the meantime, a city is being shot to hell. And they do that politically. And they probably do want it. If we didn't go to Los Angeles, you would literally have had to call off the Olympics. It was so bad. And the sheriff and the law enforcement people, but the sheriff said, and he came out very strongly, he said, if we didn't have these people, we were not able to control it. Now, 4 days later, after we had it totally under control, we did that quickly. He changed his tune a little bit. Well, I think we could have done it. They were dead. If we didn't send in the troops, Los Angeles was dead, the Olympics was gone, the World Cup was gone, everything was gone. We did a great job. And Newsom, he's an incompetent governor. But I think people should want us to be there because otherwise all they'll do is complain as we do our job. So we'll have to think about that, okay? We go in, like in Washington, we go in and the people that are here that have been doing, I don't want to say terrible because she happens, she's a nice woman, I guess. I don't care about if she's nice, I really don't care. I want her to do, I'd rather have her be horrible but do the job. But we come into Washington and we have the 11 best days they've had here in 2 centuries. I mean, they've never seen anything like it. Let's go 2 decades. In over 20 years, they haven't seen anything like what happened. And now they're out there saying, we don't have crime in Washington. Well, that's true. For 11 days, you don't have crime. But before that, everybody was getting hit and mugged, and you people could not walk to your office without security. That's how unsafe it was. So I think we should really let them have their city, let their city go to hell, and when they come and beg us to help. The only problem is we want to save it for the people, because the people want us there. The people here, 95% of the people here want us. The real people, not the people you find on, I don't know where you find these people. You have one person that has a broken nose, where'd you get it? Well, I was mugged, good. Do you want to see Trump here with, no, I don't want. A woman has a broken nose. She got mugged. But she's saying she doesn't want any protection. It's all made up fake news. It's just fake news. I don't know where you find these people. Anyway, would you say a couple of words, please? And then I'm going to ask JD to say something. You have done an unbelievable job in a short period of time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Highly recommended by you-know-who, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to say his name?
Mr. Youngkin, Governor Youngkin. Yes, sir.
We stole you from Governor
He called
Youngkin.
me. Right. He called me. Glenn Youngkin called, and he said, "I have somebody who's really fantastic." And based on that recommendation, here you are. You've done a fantastic job. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Go ahead.
The men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department are back. They enjoy doing their job again. They feel the ability to go out and be law enforcement officers. They feel that they're connected to their communities again. They are making a difference. Thanks to you, Mr. President, and our federal task force, you are making DC safe once again.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
It's going to get better and better. Well, it can't get much better. There's no crime. I read where crime's down 89%. I said, really? Who are the 11%? Okay? There's no crime. JD, please.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks, Mr. President. Thanks to the incredible team here. You know, I want to echo something the President said, where you say there haven't been murders in a couple of weeks in D.C., and it doesn't sound good, but then you talk to local law enforcement, and I didn't realize that this town averaged one murder every other day for the last 20, 30 years, which means that in 2 short weeks, the President and the team have saved 6 or 7 lives, people who would have been killed on the streets of D.C., who are now living, breathing, spending time with their families, because the President had the willpower to say, no more. We're not going to give the streets of D.C. over to vagrants and robbers and murderers. And the last point I want to make, sir, to your point about we want people to welcome us, to ask us, because look at Governor Pritzker in Illinois, or Governor Newsom in Los Angeles, or Governor Moore in Maryland. They are angrier about the fact that the President of the United States is offering to help them get their crime under control than they are about the fact that murderers are running roughshod over their cities and have been for decades. Why are Democrat governors angrier about federal law enforcement helping clean up their streets than they are about the fact that those streets need to be cleaned up to begin with? It shows a real sickness in the head. And I agree with the President of the United States. I think most Democrats, rank and file, nobody likes crime. Republicans don't like crime. Democrats don't like crime. Independents don't like crime. Why are Democratic governors doing everything in their power to make crime easier to do in their cities? It doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. But, Mr. President, I appreciate you being willing to help. And I hope these governors take you up on the offer, because we should clean up all of America's streets. It's the right of every American to live in safety and comfort in their community.
And we've got the people to do it. They're signing up like they've never signed up before. Our military, as you know, during the campaign, nobody was signing up. We were way short of their goal, we were understaffed. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be a policeman. Nobody wanted to be a fireman. They didn't want anything to do with the country. We had an incompetent, grossly incompetent president who frankly should not have been there. He should have never been there. The damage he did to this country is incalculable. I mean, just what he has done. So much of our effort are getting murderers and jailbirds and people out of this country who are drug dealers at the highest level. So much of the energy of people that he let in, it was an unforced error. But I don't think they think it's an error. But I don't believe he believed it. It was the radical lunatics that surrounded this guy at this desk, who are brilliant people, but with the wrong philosophy. There were some brilliant people, but they're evil people, and they're going to be brought down. They have to be brought down because they really hurt our country. But we're getting it back very quickly. And I'll tell you something, our country's now, it's stronger. I think we're more respected than we've been respected in 100 years. It's a whole different ballgame. JD, could I ask you,
Yes, sir.
You gave a stat on murders here. What were the numbers? You said in a short period of time, how many people were murdered?
Local law enforcement told me, sir, that in the past 20 or 30 years, D.C. has averaged a murder every other day. That's, 200 murders a year, 150, 250, but about every other day a person has been killed on the streets of Washington, D.C. We've been doing this for 2 weeks. 0 people killed. That's real lives saved that the media and frankly the entire Democratic Party should be saying, thank you for saving lives, instead of attacking the President of the United States for doing so.
You know, when a person, unfortunately, will probably happen at some point, when a person's murdered in D.C., it's going to be the biggest story maybe in history. Right?
Yes, sir.
Somebody was murdered in D.C. Trump is failing. No, we're not failing. We have a safe city. This is maybe the safest city in America right now. That's how good it is. And it would be nice to be appreciated. These people eventually, they're going to have to be appreciated for what they're doing. And they're going to have to be appreciated by the officials that are really happy when we go in because they've lost control of their...
Don't miss the great deals and big flooring savings at Lumber Liquidators now till November 4th. These crazy low prices won't last long. Solid oak hardwood flooring as low as 79 cents a square foot. Corlux waterproof vinyl from $1.19 a square foot. Mayflower pre-finished hardwood as low as $1.99 a square foot. Hurry, these great deals will be gone after Tuesday, November 4th. Visit lumberliquidators.com to find a showroom near you. Great floors for less.
Their place. Steve Miller, please say a few words.
Thank you, sir. So just to, first of all, follow up on what the Vice President said. No police officer working in the city can remember a time in their lives when there has been no murders. You can work at the police department for 20 years, 30 years, your whole life. We've checked the records. No one can even find a record of being murder-free for as long as we've been murder-free under President Trump's leadership. Additionally, and the President spoke about this before, we've uncovered, in the process of uncovering, a massive scandal in Washington, D.C. with the doctoring of crime stats. And the Department of Justice, under the Attorney General, is leading the effort to uncover this. But when we ultimately share the results, it will stun you. The extent to which, even though D.C. had the worst crime in America, honestly measured, it dramatically understated how bad it was. There's even accusations that murders and homicides were reported as accidents instead of murders. I mean, this is how severe the manipulation of the crime data has been in this city, and it will all be uncovered and it will all be brought to light. You know, I've had a chance to spend some time, as has everyone here, with the police officers in the city. Members of the public are going up to them and thanking them, just overflowing with gratitude, because for the first time in their lives, they can use the parks, they can walk on the streets. You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. People had changed their whole lives in this city for fear of being murdered, mugged, and carjacked. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs. And the last thing I'll say is that under the efforts of Terry, to my left and many here, what they found also is that the street criminals here in Washington, D.C. were doing business directly with the transnational criminal cartels, the foreign terrorist organizations. So not only was the city being run by these criminal thugs, but they were working with some of the most dangerous terrorist organizations on the planet to traffic weapons and drugs into this city. And what we are uncovering every day is shocking to us, and we look forward to sharing all the results with you. But President Trump, your leadership has uncovered some of the great public safety scandals of our life, and now because of you, people are safe and free for the first time ever in this city.
Thank you very much, Steve. You know, in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills is, a great place. I have a house there. I had a house there. I used to stay a lot of time, spend a lot of time there. And a great place. Do you know that I have friends, they leave their trunk open for their car because they know they're going to be vandalized. They don't want the trunk ripped off in order for them to steal what's in the back. They leave the doors open so when they go in to steal the radio or whatever they take, that they don't rip off the door. They leave the doors totally open so the criminals, when they go and open the door, they don't have to break the windows and kill the car in order to steal whatever it is in the car that they're looking for. And that's at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Nobody lives like that. I have another friend, he has a garage, and in order to save his garage door, he leaves it open so that people can just walk into his garage, take whatever they want, and leave. But all the cars so many cars, I've been told this by many people, stars, big people, they leave their doors open so the doors aren't destroyed by these criminals. All over Los Angeles this is taking place. And you know that, I mean, you've heard that. Christy, could you say a few words?
Sure. Well, Mr. President, I think one of the most impactful statistics that you used today was of the 1,000 arrests that have happened already so far, 439 of them were illegal criminals, which means they never should have been in this country to begin with. That they were in this country, invaded over our southern border or our northern border or maritime seas, and then they committed crimes against the American people. So by getting those individuals incarcerated, we've stopped those violent crimes from happening here in the city. And sir, they do. Exactly like Stephen was talking, they have ties to cartels. They have networks across this country in other cities. So by what you're doing here is going to have a ripple effect in Miami, in Chicago, in other cities, because you're grabbing those networks and giving us information and targeting information to go and get more criminals across this country. So thank you for the work that you're doing. We have ICE and CBP, Federal Protective Services, Secret Service, HSI, all of our officers are working with all the other agencies every day here in DC, and they're so proud to have this kind of partnership. So they're so glad that you're letting them do their jobs again. And I don't know if you've heard, sir, but the recruitment campaign for ICE, when we were going to hire 10,000 new officers, we've got over 130,000 people that have applied and raised their hands and said they want to work with ICE. So no matter what the fake news says or what the media says about ICE not having support, they've got incredible support from the American people. People want to join them and help them do what they're doing to make America safe again. So thank you for that.
I was going to say that our recruitment drive, so it was dead. During the campaign, they couldn't get, every story was the Army can't fill up, the Marines, none of them could fill up. They were way behind. We couldn't get anybody to go into the military, couldn't get any police. We've just set records on everybody wants to be in. Everybody wants to go in. And we're taking incredible people. I mean, the level of, because of the Supreme Court, it's based on merit. It's all based on merit now. It's not based on anything else. You got to, if you need strong people, you have to get strong people. It's all based on merit. But we're setting records in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the Coast Guard. One of my favorites, because I happen to have created it, Space Force. We're very proud of Space Force. It's amazing what it's doing. We're leading in space now. China was killing us. Russia was beating us. China was killing us. We're now killing China. We are leading in space by a lot because of Space Force. So we're very proud. But everybody wants to go in. We went from not, and you know how bad that is for the spirit when every story that you were writing a year ago was that nobody wants to go into the military anymore. And if you're in the military, you know how deflating that is? You go and be a family. Nobody wants a job that you have. Well, now it's the opposite. Everybody wants to be there. And that includes police and fire and everything else. You're doing a good job.
Thank you, sir.
You're stopping a lot of wars. just the presidents we're stopping. We've stopped 7 wars, and really the number is actually 10. We're not including a couple, and we're not including in there what we did with Iran, stopping their nuclear play. They would have had within a month or two, they would have had a nice big nuclear weapon to use. That's not going to happen. That won't happen. Pete, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards, but did you know we print everything you need to get your brand in front of your fans? We print banners and signs that help your business stand out. We print postcards and flyers that get people talking. And we print must-have merch like tote bags, t-shirts, and water bottles. Whether you want a few or a few thousand, we print on everything so that customers can go from noticing your brand to falling in love with it. Right now, new customers can get 20% off with code NEW20. Because if you need it, we print it at Vistaprint.com.
Well, Mr. President, thank you very much for your leadership, and the Defense Department is proud to be a part of this task force. Just like we have been down at the southwest border, where crossings are at 0, we've got national defense areas where we're working with Border Patrol to secure the southern border for the American people. Just like Los Angeles, where ICE officers deserve to do their job without being attacked, we're really proud to be a part of defending the nation's capital and ensuring it is safe and beautiful and working with law enforcement. And Mr. President, let me tell you, the morale of the troops, getting out there talking to them, they love this mission. They're grateful to be doing it, whether they're DC National Guard or other state National Guards. And at your direction as well, sir, it's just common sense to make sure they're armed as well. And so we're rolling out ensuring they're armed, capable of defending themselves and others if need be, supporting law enforcement, and we're proud to be there, sir.
Well, look at the mission you just accomplished with Iran. 36 hours back and forth, flawless. Every bomb hit its target. They went right down those chutes, dark at night, no moon, no nothing. Every target, every bomb went right down. They have a chute that goes right down deep into the mountain. And they shouldn't have put ventilation in, I can tell you, because we use that for our advantage. But what they did, and we had the pilots and even the people that took care of the planes, we had a whole group of people at the White House a couple of weeks ago. And you know, I didn't realize this, but they said, we've been looking at their predecessors, and then these were the pilots. They said, we gave them beautiful medals. And I'll show you the medal. Gave them a medal just like this. See? Just like that. They were so happy. Gave a lot of them out for that. It was an incredible job. You know, we had 52 tankers. People don't realize, so that they could refuel. We had many fighter jets, F-22s, and F-35s. We had many. It was an amazing operation. It was flawless. compare that to the operation when they went in with the helicopters crashing and everyone running around the desert, and the prisoners being taken, and that was Jimmy Carter, and what a horrible thing. This was the exact opposite. This was the exact opposite of what they did in leaving a very, very nice place. The Taliban runs a tough operation in Afghanistan, and I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. That was Biden. I was leaving, and we would have left through strength, tremendous strength. We would have kept Bagram, which is the air base, one of the largest runways in the world, one of the most powerful. You could land anything on it, many, many feet thick. You don't build them that way anymore. You can't. But we left it, and now China's occupying that air base. This was the most incompetent administration in history, the Biden administration. And you're just lucky that they lost, because if they won, you wouldn't have a country anymore. And so, Pete, you started up by saying the Department of Defense. And somehow it didn't sound good to me. You know, it didn't sound good. Defense, what are we defense? Why are we defense? So it used to be called the Department of War. And it had a stronger sound. And as you know, we won World War I, we won World War II, we won everything. Now we have a Department of Defense. We're defenders. I don't know. If you people want to, standing behind me, if you take a little vote, if you want to change it back to what it was when we used to win wars all the time, that's okay with me. All right?
That's coming soon.
You let me know if you want to do it. I think Department of War. It just sounded bad. He said, sir, on behalf of the Department of Defense. Defense. I don't want to be defense only. We want defense, but we want offense too, if that's okay. So you'll make a decision. But you know, as Department of War, we won everything. We won everything. And I think we're going to have to go back to that. In the meantime, I've stopped all of these wars. I've stopped them. A big one would have been India and Pakistan. But we stopped them all. We stopped 3 wars. Go to Africa. They like to say, oh, you know, I love black people. And I did great with the vote with the black people. But they say he's a racist, he's a racist. I said, really? For 35 years, a war raged between Rwanda and the Republic of the Congo. And it was a vicious war. 9 million people were killed with machetes, largely. Hatchets, machetes. That went on for more than 30 years, but 34, 35 years. And I stopped it. In fact, the presidents are coming in a week or two to sign we have the foreign ministers, it's all signed, the war stopped. But I got it stopped and saved a lot of lives. The Congo, it's deep into deepest, darkest Africa. I got that war stopped. Nobody else could have done that. We did a lot of jobs. We did a lot of wars were stopped that nobody thought would even be possible. And I'll tell you what, the war with India and Pakistan, that was the next level. That was going to be a nuclear war. They already shot down 7 jets. That was raging. And I said, you guys want to do trade? We're not doing any trade. We're not doing anything with you if you keep fighting. You got 24 hours to settle it. They said, well, there's no more war going. And I used that on numerous occasions. Trade, I used whatever you had to use. But we got 7 of them stopped. And the one I thought would be easiest, frankly, was going to be Russia and Ukraine. But that turns out to be some big personality conflicts. It's one of those things. But we're going to get that stopped eventually. We're going to get that stopped too. 7,000 soldiers died last week. Think of that, 7,000. I usually say 5,000, but 7,221 soldiers died last week in the fight between Ukraine and Russia. And they're not our soldiers, but they're souls. They're living souls, and they leave their homes, and they wave to their parents, and their parents are so proud as they leave in a beautiful uniform, and a week later they get their head blown off by a drone. New form of military. It's a whole new form of fighting. So I would just like to thank the people that are behind me. Thank you very much. You've done a fantastic job. I appreciate it very much. We're doing a real job, and I'm so proud of DC. I passed it 2 days ago, and all the garbage is off the streets. It's terrible. I came in a month and a half ago. I'm driving down, and I see garbage all over the place. The streets were a pigsty. Like I won't use the city's names, but you know what I'm talking about. There are plenty of them outside of this country and inside of this country. Baltimore is a horrible horrible deathbed. It's a deathbed. I know Governor Moore said, oh, he wants to take a walk with me. He meant it in a derogatory tone. I said, no, I'm the president of the United States. Clean up your crime and I'll walk with you. But it's tremendous crime. But he was trying to be derogatory. He doesn't have what it takes. But he's trying to be derogatory. And I met him at the Army-Navy game. They said, oh, there's Governor Moore. He'd love to see you. He came over to me, he hugged me, shook my hand. You were there. He said, sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime. I said, well, it's really nice that you say that. I'd love you to say it publicly, but I don't think you can do that, so it's okay. But no, sir, you're doing a fantastic job. I want to just shake your hand. Thank you very much, Governor. That was it. And then every time I see him on television, he's knocking the hell out of me. So, but that's all right. That's called politics. But Governor Moore's he's doing a bad job. Newsom's doing a bad job. All of their potential candidates are doing a bad job. I can't imagine Pritzker being even a candidate, but somebody said he is. He can't do the work, can't do the job. He's not temperamentally suited. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Do you have some questions?
Mr. President, is the Pentagon, and maybe the Secretary of Defense can weigh into, is the Pentagon preparing for military deployment to Chicago? And with what you said there, are you waiting for the governor?
We're ready to go anywhere. We have a full complement of great human beings. We're full. You know, our military is full. We were way empty 1 year ago. Now we're full. So we can go anywhere on less than 24 hours notice.
Are you waiting for the governor?
And we're doing a lot to interdict, to stop drugs from coming in too. We have ships out on sea. You know, we have nobody coming through our border anymore. Nobody. Doesn't that feel good to know that you don't have prisoners coming in and, you know, killers, murderers? We had 11,888 murderers come in, led in by the Biden administration. Many of them have been captured, but we still have a couple of thousand that are out there. Some of them, 50% of them killed more than one person, okay? But a lot of them have been captured. What they've done to our country, these people that circle this moron that we had behind this desk, what they've done to our country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. I mean, if you think so much of our time is devoted to correcting a problem that all they had to do is say, close the borders. Remember when he said, well, I have no power to close the border. I have to go back and get an act from Congress. I didn't get an act from Congress. I came in, I said, close the borders. And Tom Homan, who's not here, has been fantastic, Christy, right? Yes. Tom Homan is great. He's a fantastic man and respected by everybody. But I said, Tom, close the borders. Christy, close the borders. The borders were closed. We didn't go to Congress and get permission. We just closed the borders. And in the last 3 months, hard to believe this one too, in the last 3 months, we've had 0 people come into our country illegally through the southern border. Nobody would have said that's possible. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this? And why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
Because they think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal. And, you know, through a system of liberal courts, you know, he's doing things. But, no, we have that under control. And Pam has got that very much under control. Do you want to comment on it, Pam?
No, we've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison. He doesn't need to be on the streets like all these liberals want him to be. And as part of this operation here in DC, we've also taken off MS-13 members. We've taken, I think just last night, we got a TDA guy off our streets right here, right around from where we all work. Another TDA member gone because of this project. So we're going to keep America safe from all of these foreign terrorist organizations, including Abrego Garcia.
Well, I was down on my last dollar, then I started saving, cause the bank said fiscal restraint is what you're craving. So I put my earnings in a high yield account, let the savings compound and the interest mount. I'm optimizing cash flow, putting debt in check now. Time is my friend and not a pain in the neck. And we've got a little cash to rebuild the old
deck. Boring money moves make kind of lame songs, but they sound pretty sweet to your wallet. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865.
Okay.
Mr. President, if we could get your reaction, sir. The Israelis bombed a hospital in Gaza that killed 20 people, including 5 journalists.
When did this happen?
This happened overnight, today.
I didn't know that. No.
Any reaction to this? Are you
Well,
going
I'm
to
not
talk to
happy
the Prime
about it.
Minister?
I don't want to see it. At the same time, we have to end that whole nightmare. I'm the one that got the hostages out. I got them out, all of them. Steve Witkoff has been amazing. He's done a great job. But I'm the one that got them all out through my people and through me. And now we're left with probably a little bit less than 20, because I think 1 or 2 are gone. And I said a long time ago, I'm going to get them out, but when we get down to that final 10 or 20, these people aren't going to release them because they're dead after they release them. So it's a nasty situation, very nasty, horrible thing.
Mr.
Yes.
President, could you please elaborate on your post on South Korea? What were you referring to?
Well, I heard that there were raids on churches over the last few days, very vicious raids on churches by the new government in South Korea, that they even went into our military base and got information. They probably shouldn't have done that, but I heard bad things. I don't know if it's true or not. I'll be finding out. As you know, your new president's coming in just a couple of hours, coming here. I look forward to meeting him. But we won't stand for that. We just won't stand for that. Yes.
Are you prepared to order National Guard troops, though, into American cities if those governors don't request the federal deployment?
I am, but I also think that, look, Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is. Everybody standing there knows. We know. You don't have to be doing any studies. They should be saying, please come in. Pritzker should be saying that. You know, I did a favor for Christy Whitmer, a good favor, I think, with the fish, the carp, the China carp. Did you ever hear of it? China carp. And it's taken over your Great Lakes. You know about that, right? And she came and she wanted to know if it's possible for us to do something about it. And I said, well, I'll do. But I think it's appropriate that the person from Illinois, the governor from Illinois, asks also. It's a tremendously expensive project, actually. It's invasive. It's horrible what's happened. And we can do it with GSA and various people. But we can do it. We're going to just have to see what happens, okay? We're going to have to see what happens. But
do you believe that you have the legal authority
the
to order
governor
those
of
troops?
Michigan came, was very respectful, asked for it. She's done a good job. I did that. I opened the Air Force Base, kept it open for F-35s and various planes, F-22s too. I did that for the state of Michigan at her request. And I will, and also at our congressmen. We have congressmen that are unbelievably pro-Michigan up there. But some of this stuff, like the lakes, the Great Lakes, this is a big problem that nobody ever talks about. Most of you probably have never heard of. We have a pretty violent fish that comes from China, China carp, Chinese carp. And you see them jumping out. They jump into boats and they jump all over the place. They've got a lot of energy. And there's a way of getting rid of them. It's very expensive. And I didn't get a request from the governor of Illinois, who is affected maybe more than anybody else, right? And I think until I get that request from that guy, I'm not going to do anything about it. And I feel the same way about crime. We go in, we will solve Chicago within 1 week, maybe less, but within 1 week we will have no crime in Chicago, just like we have no crime in DC. But, I don't like to go in and do it and then have somebody stand up and say what a great job he's doing on crime. And we don't want the military in our state. We don't want the military. Do you understand? Do you understand that?
Yeah, these governors will say
so I don't know.
There was no
We're going to
emergency
have a little
response.
meeting, I think. I feel like we go in and we do it, like here. To a lesser extent with the mayor, she hasn't been terrible, but she hasn't been, exactly saying, oh, great. She did say last night, I heard her say that, well, we really don't want the military in D.C. Well, that's, not very nice, I guess. That's a little bit of a hit. But she's not as bad as some. We saved Los Angeles, and all we did is get criticized by this idiot that's running the state into the ground, right, where people are leaving. He should be thanking us. And he should be requesting us to be there. And the governor of Illinois should be. Chicago's a disaster. And the governor of Illinois should say, President, would you do us the honor of cleaning up our city? We need help. They need help. They need help.
So are you waiting for
We may wait. We may or may not. We may just go in and do it, which is probably what we should do. The problem is, it's not nice when you go in and do it and somebody else is standing there saying, as we give great results, say, we don't want the military in. They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help. Just look at the crime statistics. Look at the statistics that JD said about, even I didn't know it was that bad. That's terrible. But all I know is we're being celebrated because we went an entire week. Now it's 11 days. We went an entire week without a murder. And I said, boy, that sounds terrible. I didn't know how to, I actually made a speech. I didn't know how to say it because it's a great number. It's a great thing, but it sounds so bad. I mean, supposing you're from a foreign country, which is properly run and they don't have murders and things, right, so much, or in some cases virtually at all. And you have somebody saying, I'm proud to announce that nobody was murdered in the capital of the United States this week. It sounds terrible, but...
Mr. President, Gavin Newsom, you mentioned Gavin Newsom on crime.
Gavin Newsom, yes.
Is there a federal mechanism you're hoping to use to fight back against his redistricting constitutional amendment, or is that
Well, I think I'm going to be filing a lawsuit pretty soon, and I think we're going to be very successful in it. We're going to be filing it through the Department of Justice. That's going to happen. And we're also going to be filing a lawsuit on blue slipping. You know, blue slips make it impossible for me as president to appoint a judge or a U.S. attorney because they have a gentleman's agreement. It's nothing memorialized. It's a gentleman's agreement that's about 100 years old, where if you have a president like a Republican and if you have a Democrat senator, that senator can stop you from appointing a judge or a U.S. attorney. In particular, those are the two, I guess anything, but those are the two that are very important. So we have numerous states where we have unbelievable people. Now, Jay Clayton was just approved in the Southern District, but he was so good. He was a top student, top schools, top everything, went to Sullivan and Cromwell, became the head of Sullivan and Cromwell, came down here, was Securities and Exchange Commission, ran it for 4 years during my term, impeccably, beautiful job. He did an incredible job. And we went to court, and the judges, Democrat judges, voted that he could. That's the only way you get by it. But generally speaking, you can't do that because you'll have judges from the other party. So Jay Clayton just got approved, and he's in, but he didn't get approved by the senators. He got approved by the court system in New York, which was a great thing. And I had a big victory in New York, I might add. I saved myself $500 million with a fake, corrupt attorney general, a really corrupt person with a corrupt judge who was disgraceful, and they're being mauled right now by everybody. It's so corrupt, and it kept business out of New York, stuff like that. But the appellate division vacated all of that stuff that you read about, and we're going to do a big number on that whole thing. You can't have a corrupt court system. You can't have that. You have to have borders, and you have to have a free press. Otherwise, you don't have a country. But you'll be hearing about the blue slipping, because if you have not, you don't need two senators. You just need one Democrat senator with a Republican. The only person that I can get approved are Democrats or maybe weak Republicans, but we don't want that. But the only person I will be able to get approved in any of those states where you have a Democrat I can't get a U.S. attorney. I can only get a Democrat U.S. attorney. And this is based on an old custom. It's not based on law, and I think it's unconstitutional, and I'll probably be filing a suit on that pretty soon. Yeah, please.
During the campaign, you called Kamala Harris a communist, but the Biden-Harris administration, they never called for nationalizing a private company with the federal government like you're proposing with Intel. What do you say to some who say this is a bit hypocritical, and is this the new way of doing industrial policy?
Yeah, sure it is. I want to try and get as much as I can. If people come in and they need something, as an example, as a real estate person, if I have an agreement and I have any form of a stopgap where I can stop somebody from doing something, right? I have a covenant and an agreement, and they come to me and they say, would like to do something, but you have us restricted. If I do that, they usually have to pay. Now, in the case of Intel, it was interesting, but I hope I'm going to have many more cases like it. Intel came in. I met with the gentleman. I had a lot of respect for him. He came in under a little bit of a cloud. I liked his story. I thought he was good. I think he really means to do a good job with Intel. I said, I'd like to ask whether or not you'd give because the story, a lot of people said I invested in Intel. I didn't invest, but I invest my heart in it and my soul because I want the country to be strong. But I said, I'd like you to give 10% of Intel to the United States of America. Not to me, to the United States of America. And I said, if you have them as a partner, you have the United States as a partner, I think that would be a very good thing for Intel. And he thought about it, a little bit different, and he said, I like that idea very much. We have a deal. And I just made $10 billion or $11 billion for the United States of America. And yeah, there will be other cases. If I have that opportunity again, I would do that. And then, you do have stupid people say, oh, that's a shame. It's not a shame. It's called business. If somebody's willing to give you 10% of a company and you're not paying for it, and I will tell you, with a company like Intel, as you know, it's had difficulty. I want them to do well. I want them to do well anyway, but I want them to do well in particular now.
But isn't public ownership of a private company a new way of doing business in the business in the United States? Isn't that what you were sort of rejecting?
So are tariffs. So as you know, the stock market went up almost 1,000 points on Friday. And it went up not because of this very, I think, terrible, hello? Who's that? Who is that back there? All right, get out of the room. It went up because of something much different. It went up because it was announced, CBO announced the numbers, and as you know, they gave no credit to tariffs. They said they made a mistake, that the trade deficit will be reduced because of Trump's tariffs, will be reduced by $4 trillion, right? Is that what they said, right? They said $4 trillion, and the market went up like a rocket ship because the tariffs are good. Well, tariffs aren't that usual. If the 7 wars I stopped, 4 of them were because of the fact that I had tariffs and trade. And I was able to say, well, if you do this, if you go fight and if you want to kill everybody, that's okay. But I'm going to charge you each 100% tariff when you trade with us. You know what? They all gave up. I stopped 7 wars. Numerous of them was because of tariffs. So, you never knew the word tariff. It didn't exist really, essentially, in this country until actually in the 1870s up till 1913 it existed. And we were the richest country. We were richer then, proportionately, than at any time in the history of our country. And then, stupidly, in 1913, they said, let's go to the income tax way of life. Let the people pay instead of foreign countries. No. We're taking in trillions of dollars in tariffs, and we're stopping wars because of tariffs. So that's not so normal either. But you know what? Other countries did it to us, and now we're doing it to other countries.
You ruled out boots on the ground in Ukraine, but how would air support as part of a security guarantee be any different? Those U.S.
Well, you
airmen...
really went from one question to the next. You go from one. I expected he'd at least challenge me a little bit. Now we're talking about boots on the ground.
But U.S. air assets over the skies of Ukraine as part of a security guarantee, wouldn't those U.S. airmen also be
Well,
in
you
danger?
don't know what security guarantee is because we haven't even discussed the specifics of it. And we'll see. Number one, Europe is going to give them significant security guarantees, and they should because they're right there. But we'll be involved from the standpoint of backup. We're going to help them. And I think if we get a deal, and I think we will, but if we get a deal, you're not going to. I don't believe you're going to have much of a problem. But we'll back it up because I want to stop seeing people being killed. When Biden was here, he gave $350 billion. You know this from covering business. $350 billion to Ukraine. I said that Zelensky's the greatest salesman I think I've ever met, better than P.T. Barnum, because he'd come to the country, he'd walk out with $50 billion every time. He actually came here once, he walked out with $100 billion. We're up to $350 billion. I got $1 trillion worth of rare earth that we have from the country because I felt badly for our taxpayer. But I did something else at the NATO meeting. They are wealthy countries, but they weren't paying. And we don't pay any money to Ukraine anymore. Do you know that? In fact, it's the opposite. They request through NATO, we deal with NATO. We don't deal really with Ukraine. NATO requests missiles. They want Patriots, they want missiles. We give the missiles to NATO. NATO pays us in full and does what they want. I mean, I think they give them mostly they can do other things with them too, because we're dealing with NATO. We pay no money to Ukraine. We gave $350 billion to Ukraine. You know, if we didn't give that kind of money, and I was the one that gave the javelins, if you remember. I gave the javelins, they were very effective. They say Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. They were very effective with those tanks right at the beginning. But you would have never had a war if I were president. You would have never had a war. Just to finish, we spend no money on Ukraine anymore. We were getting fleeced by a president that didn't know what he was doing. To be honest, I don't blame Ukraine. I mean, if they come and ask for $100 billion, then they get it. But we were in for $350 billion. Now, we make money. I don't want to make money on Ukraine. I want the war to end because I want to save all those lives. I want to just save, but just so you understand, we're no longer losing money on that thing. We were losing money hand over fist. And now we don't lose any money. Now we sell weapons to NATO. Because NATO agreed, because of me, to go to 5%. They had 2% and didn't pay. Now they have 5% and they're all paid up. So they have trillions of dollars and they give us that money. But I really want the war to end, and we're going to get it ended.
Mr. President, everyone leaves this historic summit here with Ukrainian President Zelensky, European leaders all met here with you at the White House. You said you wanted to get this done bilateral as soon as possible. Have you spoken to Putin since last Monday?
Yeah, I have.
What is your conversation? Or can you share?
Every conversation I have with him is a good conversation, and then unfortunately a bomb is loaded up into Kiev or someplace, and then I get very angry about it. I think we're going to get the war done. It's tough. I thought that would be, of the 7 that I settled, I thought that would be the easiest of the group. See, you never know what's going to happen. You know, war, strange things happen in war. The fact that he went to Alaska, our country, I think was a big statement that he wants to get it done. That was not easy for him to go to Alaska, you know, for him to come here. But the fact that he showed up on a very successful day, it was a very successful day for other things. Because, you know, we're also talking about missiles, nuclear. We're talking about a lot of different things. We're talking about limiting nuclear weapons. We'll get China into that. We have the most. Russia has the second most, and China has third, but China is way behind, but they'll catch us in 5 years. We would like to denuclearize. It's too much power, and we talked about that also. That's part of it, but we have to get the war over with.
On Baltimore, sir. Thank you. On Baltimore, you said that you are going to have to reconsider bridge funding. Is that contingent on Westmore cleaning up the streets?
No, we were very generous to him on a bridge. You know, a boat ran into a bridge and the bridge came down like I've never seen anything. The boat was just, it just shows you the mass of that boat, the power of that boat. You know, people were up on that bridge, painters. They were painting the bridge and they were watching it happen. And they thought they were very safe. They all died. They were painting the bridge, can you imagine? And they watched the boat. The engines were off, and they watched the boat, and the power of that boat, the mass of that boat, went right through that steel just like it was nothing. It's amazing. It's called mass. Mass is a big deal. But the mass of that boat, those people all died. But they thought they were totally safe. They were eating their lunch. They were, you know, whatever. They were watching it. They could have gotten off. Somebody did a very good job. A police officer called in and said, close the bridge, and he did it with power. Get everybody off the bridge, close that. That guy should get a medal because he stopped the bridge. A lot of people would have died, a lot more people would have died. The ones that died were the workers on the bridge. And they thought there was no danger because, you know, it's a big steel bridge. And it came down like toothpicks. It was incredible to watch that. It was just, and they died, they all died.
My mom is a veteran and she was injured in the line of duty.
I hurt my leg in a training accident when she was only 2 years old.
She had 7 different surgeries over the span of 9 years, and there were tons of complications.
I'm doing much better now. I may have lost my leg, but I've gained so much. I got my joy back.
We got our mom back, thanks to DAV.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans like Sandy get the health and disability benefits they've earned.
My victory is getting my life back.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
But that police officer, again, the police do a great job. The police officer did an amazing job. And I heard the tapes. He would say, get everybody off. Most people wouldn't have said that. You know, when you see a thing like that, you assume it's going to, you know, tap the bridge and it's going to be rebuffed. The thing just came down. I've never seen anything like it. So he did a good job. In fact, I think we should get him in for a medal. The man that gave the warning, I listened to him. Everybody get off screaming. Everybody off. He had the sense to realize that this could be a catastrophe as opposed to a ship that's, because the engines weren't working, it was just floating. It's an amazing thing that a thing floating like that with no power just knocked it right down like it was nothing.
So
Let's do that. Let's give him a medal. I've been thinking about it.
Mr. President, do you plan to investigate Chris Christie?
Say it what?
Do you plan to investigate Chris Christie?
Look, Chris is a slob. Everybody knows it. I know Chris better than anybody in the room. I always felt he was guilty. But what he did is he took the George Washington Bridge, which is very serious. He closed down the George Washington Bridge. And you had medical people, you had ambulances caught up. This thing was closed down. And obviously he knew about it. But he blamed the young lady that worked for him and another person, and they got into a lot of trouble. She ultimately was, I don't know, exonerated, but she got out of it a little bit. But she went through hell. She was a young mother, nice person. I knew her a little bit. And another man went to jail, and Chris got off. And so when I listen to Chris speak his hate, I say, oh, what about the George Washington Bridge? You know, tell me about the George Washington Bridge. He blamed other people, but he knew all about it. So no, I don't know if they want to look at it. It's not for me. If they want to look at it, they can. You could ask Pam. I think we have other things to do, but I always thought he got away with murder.
Mr. President, do you plan to make an endorsement in the Texas Senate race between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn?
Well, I'll make up my mind. I like them both. The worst situation I have is when I have two people that I get along with well. I hate it. And they all want the endorsement. You know, I'm almost 100% of the people I endorse win. It's a great honor. And I got, as you know, I got the largest vote in the history of Texas by far. Nobody's ever gotten more votes in the last election. I think in all the elections, the 3 elections. But they like me in Texas. So people are waiting for me. But I'd rather not comment on it right now. I like both guys. They're both friends of mine. And they're both good and very different.
There's some talk among congressional Republicans about another reconciliation bill. Where do you fall on that, and what would you like to prioritize?
Well, I don't want to do cutting. I want to save all the different things. I'm going to cut things that are unnecessary, but the one thing I said, and I gave my word, we're not going to hurt anybody on Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. And in fact, we're doing great on Social Security. We found 300,000 illegals on Social Security. We got them out. And, you know, things like that make Social Security very, very strong. So no, I am very big into certain things, and one of those 3, you could say 3 of those things are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We're going to protect it, and so we'll see how everything works out. If we're talking about rescissions on other things, I'm always open to cost cutting. If we can cost cut, I like it, but nothing's going to happen to medical. We have something coming up, favored nations, where I'm going to be reducing drug prices by 1,500% where a pill that sells in Germany for $10 costs $150 here because of the bad price. And I was all set to do it, and then we had the COVID come up, and I had to focus on that because we had the greatest economy in history in my first term. I will tell you that we are going to be doing numbers on the cost of drugs in this country that I'm not talking about a 20% decrease, which would be great. I'm talking about 1,000% decrease. We're talking about where a product would sell for $80 in Germany and $1,300 here. And we're not going to do that. we were subsidizing the entire world, and we're not doing it anymore. I informed the drug companies, I informed the world. And if the world wants to, if countries in the world don't want to go along, then I'm going to put tariffs on those countries, and we'll make more money. But they have to go along with it. So this is moving along rapidly. Dr. Oz is in charge, Bobby's group, and they're doing very well. And we're getting great cooperation from the drug, because the drug companies know it's unfair. You know, for years they'd say, well, we had to do research and we had to do. I said, I don't care. You had to do research for these other countries also. They are ready to go, and I'm ready to go. And you know, if I pull that off, there's no way a Republican will lose an election. There's no way. All right, one more question. Steve.
On Ukraine, Mr. President.
Steve,
Back to Ukraine.
what's this guy? He's the nicest guy I know, and he asks the most vicious questions.
Why do you think President Putin is so reluctant to meet with President Zelensky?
Because he doesn't like him. He doesn't like him. You know, they don't like. I have people I don't like. I don't like to meet with them. Sometimes they do like to meet with people I don't like.
So how do you get them together?
They don't like each other, really. And if we had a real president instead of a guy that got in there with a fraudulent election, if we had a real president, that war would have never happened. Putin actually said, if Trump were president, it wouldn't have happened. Happened for a lot of reasons. Happened because of Afghanistan. When he saw how incompetent Milley was and all these guys were, I think he said, wow, this might be it, because it was the apple of his eye. It would have never happened if I were president.
Mr. President, you have built a relationship with Russian leaders and also North Korean leaders. As they are getting closer, how would that affect your diplomatic approach?
Well, I have very good relationships with Kim Jong-un, North Korea. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's good. In fact, someday I'll see him. I look forward to seeing him. He was very good with me. We had 2 meetings. We had 2 summits. We got along great. I know him better than you do. I know him better than anybody, almost, other than his sister. His sister knows him pretty well. No, I know him well, and I got along with him. You know, I'm not supposed to say I really like him a lot, because if I do that, I get killed in the fake news media. But I got along with him very well, and we had no problem. If at the time Hillary Clinton won the election, you would have had a nuclear war. You would have had a nuclear war. We're not going to have a nuclear war. Once that happens, it's over. We're not going to have a nuclear war. No, but Kim Jong-un will meet at some point. I look forward to it, actually. But do you notice that since I came into office, you haven't had a problem with him? Hasn't been, you know, he tests lots of rockets. He does have great capability, I will say that. But I think a lot of good things are happening for our country, a lot of really good things. And the thing we're here today to talk about is crime, and specifically in D.C. I am so proud of what these people, every one of them, what they've done in D.C., because to literally stop crime on a button. I'd walk down that street right now. If I were, friends of mine are going out to dinner now. They haven't gone out to dinner in 4 years. They were afraid, they were petrified. Half the restaurants closed because nobody could go because they're afraid to go outside. Now those restaurants are open, and new restaurants are opening up. It's like a boom town. It's a great thing to see, and I'm very proud of the people behind me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Come back for the cables.
Yeah, we'll come back for the cables. If you guys just want to take cameras.
Come back for the cables. Just take your cameras out now.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.